Saturday morning, and welcome to our live debate between the two Republican candidates remaining in the race to be Georgia's next governor. The candidates are trying to win the primary runoff this Tuesday to then face Democrat Roy Barnes and Libertarian John Mons in the general election this November. A new Insider Advantage poll says these candidates are tied, and we have a lot to get to this half hour, so let's meet the candidates. Former U.S. Congressman from Georgia, Nathan Deal, and former Secretary of State for Georgia, Karen Handel. We have a panel of journalists this morning providing questions from Channel 2 Action News, political reporter Lori Geary. We have WSB Radio's Candace Presley and Atlanta's Journal-Constitution political columnist Jim Galloway. Now, each candidate will have 45 seconds to respond to a question, 30 seconds for rebuttal at my discretion. So let's get started. Lori, you have the first question.
All right, thank you, and good morning to both of you. It's been a brutal 3 weeks on the campaign trail, especially this past week. Ms. Handel, you've referred to your opponent as a corrupt relic of Washington. Mr. Deal has pointed out that you have no college degree. You would be the first governor since Lester Maddox without a college degree. I want to get your take on, do you think voters should give you a waiver on this issue?
Thank you for the question. You know, I think that the voters are going to look at the breadth of my experience, my career at KPMG, SEBA Vision, also my career at the Chamber, Fulton County Commission Chairman, and then as Secretary of State. And I'll stack my record of success and achievements in all of those jobs against a career politician any day of the week.
Mr. Deal, does it matter, college degree?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate Ms. Handel. She has done exceptionally well. I think, though, when you're talking about who is going to be the governor of this state, that it does send a message to the young people. When we're all talking about the importance of getting an education, whether it be a vocational, technical college education, a college degree, whatever it might be, I think it does send a signal. But I want to be one of those that acknowledges I have many friends who do not have college degrees. They are very successful people. But I think as the governor of the state, if we believe education is important, then we ought to set the example.
Candace, you have the next question.
Mr. Deal, Ms. Handel's so-called attack ad on you was largely comprised of news reports. The ad cited specific articles and even named the reporter in one of the articles. Now, you have loudly protested the negativity of her campaign, but you've not really refuted any of the content of the advertisement. So either the news reports are not accurate or they weren't. What's the truth there, sir?
Well, the truth is that they tell only a partial story. Now, I have been more than willing to refute this argument that is specious, quite frankly. I held a news conference. I don't believe you attended, but I do know that some of the other representatives on this panel either were there or had representatives. I opened myself up to any questions that the press wanted to ask. I answered every question that was asked of me. I have cooperated fully with everybody who wants to find out what the truth is. I think that's my obligation, and I feel like I've lived up to that.
Ms. Handel, you're smiling. Your response?
Well, I think that it speaks for itself. There is a congressional ethics report out there that noted some 6 probable violations, and now also Mr. Deal is associated with a federal grand jury investigation. And I think that, you know, this is a topic that the people of Georgia should know about. Ethics matters, and it's been something I've talked about in my entire campaign, all of my campaigns.
That's just not true about the federal investigation. I am not a target of any investigation. I believe that what Ms. Handel has consistently done here is do what she did against every major candidate in this race, and that is question their ethics. And I think the people of this state are going to react to that in a positive fashion on my behalf.
Jim Galloway?
Hey, candidates, one of you will be asked this question on Wednesday, so let's go ahead and put it out there. In terms of education, in terms of transportation, and in terms of water, are Georgians better off now than they were 8 years ago? Why or why not? Let's start with Ms. Handel, if we could.
Thank you. Thank you. Clearly on transportation, we made a big step in the last session moving forward with the funding mechanism for regional transportation around the state. In the area of education, we have moved forward. We've made some progress on graduation rates, and I think that's an important achievement as well. On water, we did have a good ruling last week or week before last in the court on the water issue. To be sure, we need to continue to make progress here and in my view, be more aggressive and be bolder in how we are proceeding forward, which is what I'm going to bring to the table as governor, someone who brings a fresh perspective as well as a new vision and really drive progress on these issues to get results.
Mr. Deal?
Well, first of all, with regard to education, I know we have some very hard-working educators, school teachers, and others, and our graduation rates have improved, and that is certainly progress. We have a ways to go. We all acknowledge that. As governor, I'll be a governor who is friendly to education because of my background and my affiliation with public educators. On transportation, I do think the regional tax approach is a right step in a direction, but we've been in a holding pattern on transportation for far too long for the last several years. I'll be a governor who will jam that roadblock. On the issue of water, of course, as you know, I have been one of the leaders on this issue of water negotiations. We've wasted far too much time expecting a favorable ruling from the federal courts, and we not only didn't get a favorable ruling, we got one that is very unfavorable. As governor, I will resolve that dispute with the other two states.
You both have touched on education. This week, Mr. Deal, you had a change of heart on Race to the Top money. Explain your position now. Will you accept the money if we are granted that
Yes.
federal?
If we're granted the award, then it will be obviously granted before Sonny Perdue leaves office. As the incoming governor, I would certainly work cooperatively to make sure those funds are applied appropriately. But I think the fact that I had some reservations about long-term obligations are certainly mirrored by the fact that neither of the two leading organizations representing teachers and administrators have endorsed this proposal. Only 26 out of our 180 school systems have signed a memorandum of understanding agreeing to cooperate with it. I want to assure them that as the governor who will implement this, that I will open the negotiations and the implementation to our teachers and their representatives and to parents and school board members throughout the state to make sure that it achieves the goals that we all want.
Ms. Handel, $400 million.
Well, actually, the comment at the chamber event had more to do with strings attached. And as we know, that was not really the case. Certainly, we need to have all of our teachers and our leaders in education at the table with us, helping us as we implement it. I do, however, believe that we need to exercise caution and discipline when it comes to long-term funding commitments that we're going to make. And so that is how I will be looking at this with two main criteria, making sure that it is going to be in the best interest of educating young people in our state, and secondly, making sure that when the federal funding runs out, that we're prepared to continue with those programs. And if I might just add on the issue of education, you know, precisely because I was not able to have the opportunity to go to college is why I'm going to be a huge proponent of K through 12 and making sure that every student has that chance to go to college.
Candace.
Ms. Handel, are you still committed to pursuing an Arizona-style immigration law to fight illegal immigration in the state of Georgia?
Thank you. Yes, I am very committed to that, and here's why. You know, the federal government and career politicians in Washington have fundamentally abdicated their responsibility on this issue of illegal immigration, and it's costing our state anywhere from $1.5 to $2 billion a year. We must deal with it. Certainly, as the legislature comes forward with this proposal, I will be looking at what's happening with the Arizona court case and understanding if there's ways for us to strengthen our legislation. But we must do it, and we need to do it in partnership with local law enforcement, drive enforcement from both sides, from the illegal immigration side as well as from the employer side as well.
Mr. Deal, on this topic.
Well, I was the first candidate to speak out openly and say that we should adopt a similar statute. I have a history of working on that issue. Unfortunately, we've not been able to get what we need done at the federal level, but I have worked and I have made progress in that area. The 287G program, which is a federal program that trains deputies of local sheriff's departments, is an effective program. Unfortunately, we only have 4 counties in our state that are under that now. What Arizona did was simply implement a statewide 287G approach. It is important for us to have linkage to the immigration database of the immigration services. That's what 287G does. The real shame of all of this is that the federal government has wasted taxpayers' money attacking a statute of a state that's simply trying to protect itself against the cost. They should have been spending that money to implement a 287G program nationwide.
Is it possible to put teeth into a law where you can go after an employer who continues to hire illegal immigrants?
You're asking me? Yes, I think it is, and our statute in the state of Georgia purports to do that. Unfortunately, the enforcement arm of the state statute has been somewhat lacking.
And is this Ms. Handel, is this a lawsuit when the federal government in a circuit court goes after a state? Will you join other states then in perhaps challenging that?
Absolutely, and I think that we've got to make sure that we continue to put pressure on Washington on this issue, and we must have strong enforcement and make sure that employers are doing their part on this as well, but the cost to the citizens of Georgia is too high to simply ignore this